joining me on the stage shortly. It's a very apt day for us to be having this conversation. Francois talked about tomorrow being the anniversary of that epic World Cup win in 1995. Does anyone know what June 23rd represents in the Olympic movement today? Any Olympians or Paralympians in the room, sorry? June 23 was actually the day that the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, was founded in Paris 132 years ago today. So a very apt day for us to be having this conversation with Finn about the performance of the US Olympic and Paralympic Committee. In the Olympic sport world, performance is not about building for the week-by-week game day. It's about building things that last, not surviving the next match review, the next season. It's about building a system to perform every 4 years, building something that builds over decades to achieve an outcome at an Olympic Games or a Paralympic Games. Finn, who's joining us shortly, has been able to do that across two distinct Olympic sports systems, the Irish Sports Council in Ireland and obviously the USOPC based here in Colorado Springs. He's done that at numerous Olympic Games, Athens in 2004, Beijing in 2008, London 2012, Tokyo, Paris, Milan, Cortina, other winter games in between. The most recent Olympic cycle was obviously Milan Cortina, the winter games earlier this year. At this event, it was the best United States Olympic performance outside of North America ever. In 132 years, 2026 was the best performance by a US Olympic team outside of North America ever. They medaled in 12 of 17 disciplines at the Winter Games, including achieving a record number of gold medals for the United States at our Winter Olympics. We have many of our friends from the USOPC in the room today, and that achievement deserves a round of applause from everyone in the room today. Finn and the team that he leads at the USOPC achieved this outcome by staying humble, sharing knowledge, understanding a culture where pride doesn't block progress and performance. So please now, round of applause to welcome onto the stage the Senior Vice President and Chief of Olympic and Paralympic Sport at the USOPC, Finbar Kirwan. Have a seat. So today's Olympic Day, World Olympic Day.
I did not know that, by the way.
There you go.
So a new data point for me.
Perfect. I think for many people in the room, myself included, there's a moment in our childhood where something we saw at the Olympics inspired our love of sport. As an Australian, for me, it was the 1996 Atlanta Olympic Games. Kieran Perkins, a famous Australian swimmer, struggled in the heats, qualified 8th for the Olympic final. He was the reigning Olympic champion in the 1500 metre freestyle. He was ill, he was sick, qualified and swam from lane 8. Olympic final, he came out and blasted the field against all expectations and won the gold medal. And I distinctly remember that as a young child, and that inspired my love and interest in sport. Tell us your story about your love of sport and the Olympics specifically. What inspired that?
Yeah, well, firstly, thanks for the opportunity to be here today. You acknowledged my colleagues who are here in your intro, and it is very important that those colleagues get recognized for the work that they did in support of the team in Milan Cortina. It does not happen without them. We are the team behind the team, and there are people in this room who made that historic achievement happen, so thank you to you guys, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. My jumping off moment, I guess, for sport was, and I'm going to date myself here, 12 years prior to you, is 1984 LA Games. And I'm from Cork originally in Ireland, so if anybody knows Cork, in the summertime it can get a bit grey and dull and so forth. And in 1984 there was an Irish athlete who won a silver medal and in the men's marathon, and it was the first Olympic medal since 1956 on the track for Ireland. And I watched that on TV, And it was like this blast of Technicolor performance that blew my mind away. And I was only a kid, and I thought, man, that is just unbelievable. And it was unbelievable sporting performance, as well as an unbelievable spectacle sprinting into the Coliseum, 100,000 people. It just blew me away. And you know, fortuitous in my career is that John Tracy, the guy that won the silver medal, John became the CEO of the Irish Sports Council. And I, in turn, through some kind of fortunate serendipity, I guess, ended up working for John for 10 years. And we had an incredible run between Athens and London in 2012, Athens in 2004 through to London in 2012, and then in turn came to work for Team USA and started in a pretty technical role as high performance director with oversight for 6 sports, and then chief of Olympic and Paralympic sport. And like the weird, bonkers serendipity, I'll use that word twice, of all of this is that I get to work with Team USA as we prepare for LA 28 for a home game. So I feel like incredibly fortunate for that experience up to this point. I'm in my 50s. Never thought I'd be able to say this, but I still love my work. You know, so I feel very fortunate.
Amazing. And just as you said, that word, the serendipity of that being the thing that inspired your love of sport, and to now be playing a role in preparing the US and Olympic Paralympic team for LA in a few years' time is incredible. You talked about the length of time that you worked in Irish sport, and then obviously starting to build a long tenure in the US Olympic and Paralympic Committee. The world that you operate in is measured in long tenure, right? It's the 4-year cycle between Olympic Games and Paralympic Games. It's 10-year arches, it's 14-year strategies. It's kind of the opposite, really, of the world that a lot of the people in the room live in day to day. Unfortunately, I'm a Tottenham Hotspur fan. Shout out to Courtney Fisher. We had 3 managers in one season, right? That's the definition of short-termism. It's not the world that you live in, and it's not the way that you've had an impact. What does it take to be able to work in those long time horizons and take people away from day-to-day one-off outcomes and drive performance over long tenure?
So a couple of points on that. Firstly, commiserations for being a Spurs fan. That is brutal. A rough season. One thing I'll observe about the Premier League right now is maybe with Arsenal winning the Premier League this season and making Champions League final, that and it's so faddish in the Premier League, you know, what's the new thing? And possibly the new thing is tenure and time in the seat. Because if you look at Mikel Arteta, like he started back in December of 2019, Kroenke's bought the team, and he had some really dark days. Like that season, I think the 2021 season for them started really poorly. They lost 3 games on the trot. They were beaten 5-0 by Man City, and Arteta was in trouble. And the thing that happened was the Kroenkes came to him, Josh Kroenke came to him before there was any, or as best as possible, was trying to get out in front of it and say, you're our guy, you've got a plan, you know what you want to do, and we have your back. And I kind of reflected back on that story and I went, you know, there's something in that. There's something in that they have the courage and conviction to say, we're owners, he's our guy, so we're gonna own and invest. We're gonna let the coach, and we're gonna let the players play on the basis of the coach's instruction. And we saw that come to pass this season. I don't think it was the prettiest season, but I think there is something in that. So maybe that model is changing over time. And time, you know, that'll become clearer over time. From our perspective, we're very fortunate. I will say we're very fortunate because of a couple of things. Firstly, we move in 4-year cycles. Yes. For winter and summer sport. And also our investment is not government investment. So we're completely privately funded, not government funded like we were in Ireland, where there was scrutiny every single year about the progress that was made. And our investors, donors, sponsors, they want good product, but they want that product every 4 years. They want to be able to say this is where we've invested our dollars. So I think that we have time, and we have the opportunity to think about what success looks like. And critically, what it allows is the opportunity to build relationships, long-term key relationships that are effective in building high-performance programs. And I go back to Arteta, and I look at what, he realized after getting beaten 5-0 by Man City, something's got to change. I got to change the way I operate. So I got the backing of my owners. I'm going to change. And he had that time. He was given that time. And for us, there have been inflection points where we've had to change. And I think Milan Cortina was a very good illustration of us recognizing at a certain point, we got to make a change here.
I didn't intend for there to be so much Arsenal chat on the station. I've kind of set myself up for that. What does that look like day to day at the US Olympic and Paralympic Committee? How do you stop people from overreacting to a poor result at a world championship in a non-Olympic year, or something not going quite right in a non-Olympic event?
Yeah. So obviously NBC is a big partner of ours, so they want the big show every 4 years. We, as best we can, promise that big show for them. But we obviously are accountable from a year-to-year basis, internally from our board, from our leadership, and that's the expectation that we set. I would offer that the opportunity that we have is that when we look at the investment that we receive, the vast majority of that investment is from people who understand the impact of long-term planning. They come from a corporate background. They understand that things don't get fixed by Tuesday. We're very fortunate we don't have to play an away game against West Ham on Saturday, and consequently we have the time to work through that. So consequently we build plans that are multi-year with our sports, and winter is a pretty good example. We started planning for Milan Cortina back in 2020, and we have a winter sport plan that takes us to the home games in Salt Lake City and Utah in 2034, and that's locked in. We're rolling with that now. And Milan Cortina was a great success, record performances, but also just a milestone step towards the ultimate goal of being the best in the world, and that we got to beat Norway. And we make no apologies for that. Yeah.
So I guess it's easy now on reflection after Milan Cortina to say the result justified the long-term planning. You set the goal to be a podium nation by 2026, and you just articulated there the idea of being number one and beating Norway in 2034. If we sort of dial it back, how did you get to the point of getting 8 NGBs, venue partners, your broadcast partner, external collaborators to align on that as the goal so far out and stick to the plan over that period of time?
Yeah. So we'd come off the games in 2002 at home and then in 2010 in Vancouver, so in North America. But we kind of topped out and our winter sport performance was starting to fade a little bit. And there was a recognition we were sliding into that 3, 4, 5 spot on the medal table, and that just wasn't good enough. And I'll call out my colleague, Kelly Skinner, who is Vice President of Sport Performance. He's not with us today. But Kelly got the 8 NGBs in the room, and he got the venue partners in the room, and he got NBC in the room. And there was a collective agreement that that was not good enough. And there was an agreement in the room that there was going to be a shared accountability around that unit. And obviously, with 8 sports, it's pretty straightforward to get a cohesive plan to move forward. And the plan was going to be a podium nation in 26, win in 30, and have exceptional games in 34. And very clear areas then identified for support. So additional coaching support, identify the best available coaches, ensure healthy athletes, lock in our pipeline, amplify our performance innovation program, raise more money. So a whole bunch of key pillars, and we started doing it. And the critical thing was that we put ourselves out there as value investors, so we'll invest in programs where we see value. And the NGBs brought value to us and recognized that if we're going to invest in their sports, then the plans they bring forward for our investment have to be very comprehensive and have to reflect the shared accountability.
So you then medaled in 12 of 17 disciplines in Milan Cortina. You talk about the value investment there. Was that the outcome that you expected, that breadth of performance, or were you expecting less disciplines and more medals in particular pockets?
So my colleague, I think Dan is here today, but Dan Webb, our Senior Director of Performance Analytics, and his colleagues, they're here today. Dan runs an exceptional performance analytics team. And our expectation was that we could absolutely get 30 plus medals overall. Yeah. We could get in that sort of kind of 10 to 14 gold medal. We ended up with 12 and 33. So for us, we knew the opportunity was certainly there based on the data. Historically, we did not have that level of data. Yeah. So we were able to invest and plan and target investment into those sports where we knew we were going to get a good opportunity. And we saw that across the 8, we've got real breadth here. And the 12 of 17, 71% medal diversity was exceptional. The comparison for Norway, they had 6 of 12, so they're just at 50%. So we're broad but not deep, and they're deep but not broad.
Yes. You referenced Norway there. They've been the pinnacle of Olympic winter sport for a long period of time. I think a lot of people in this room would have read many articles about their youth sport development system and trying to find little nuggets there. You know, you're leading the US Olympic and Paralympic Committee, but you swallowed your pride and you decided that pride was the enemy of progress, and you went to Norway. You went to see them and try and find what were they doing that was different to what you were doing, and what could you learn from that to then try and knock them off their pedestal. Tell us a little bit about that trip.
So I was there last week. I think so much travel, but we were in Oslo last week. I was there with a colleague, and I have a relationship with the leader of Olympia Topen, which is their Institute of Sport. His name is Tor Overbo, or Tore. And Tore is the quintessential Norwegian. He's a brilliant collaborator. They're completely open source in telling us what they're doing. It is a societal program that they run. You know, their youth sports program is, it's second to none. It is not a profit-based youth sports program. And for me, I've always kind of come from this pretty humble background. I know where I'm from. I never forget where I'm from. And I'm always learning. I'm always trying to figure out what's the best way to move forward. And Tor and I made a relationship, or built a relationship, over the last probably 6 or 7 years. And I had the opportunity to go and visit, and we sat down and we started talking about winter sport, about what they're doing, what we're doing. And they recognize our progress. They recognize the areas that they have to improve in. But they also want to learn about what we're doing in summer sport as they prepare for LA. So for us, we're pretty open source as well. Like it's going to be head to head in certain areas. Cross-country skiing, first male medal for us in cross-country skiing in 50 years in Milan Cortina. So we're going to make progress in the sports that they excel in, and we're also going to support their progress as well. And I think that that's best for the Olympic movement. It's just going to make for better competition. Competition rises, athlete performances rise, and it's just better.
And do you embrace that philosophy at the USOPC? We have other international sporting bodies joining us here. Like, we're going out there to Colorado Springs on Thursday. You're opening the door to us. talk to us about what do you gain by also inviting people into the USOPC from other sports or other countries?
So people ask me, what's the one thing that was different from coming from running an Irish performance system and moving to a US performance system? And I said that when I arrived, I thought I'm going to be surrounded by these massive egos, America's big, man. Like when you're on the outside looking in, it's big personality, big people, massive country, decentralized programs. And Katie spoke about it, like a massive collegiate system. And I thought there was going to be these massive egos. And actually the opposite was the case. I found highly expert people with a great deal of curiosity about what others were doing and how they could learn from others. And that struck me as, wow, yeah, that's a big difference. And Team USA are the #1 summer nation in the world. But we also, we're in a head-to-head battle with China for LA. We tied on gold medal in Paris, 40 gold medals apiece in Paris, and the Chinese are coming after us. They want to take us down in LA. Yeah. So if the worst possible thing for us would be complacency. So we need to learn. We need to understand how other sports operate. We need to understand how other nations operate. And if we're not continually learning and putting new practices into place that help our athletes excel, we're going to fall behind and we're going to get left behind. So I won't have that on my watch.
How do you reinforce that on a day-to-day basis when you've been able to deliver the results that you have?
I like telling stories, so I go back to Paris, right? Noah Lyles won that 100 meters by 5/1000ths of a second. 5/1000ths of a second. Okay, that's the difference between us coming home with big glum faces because China won on gold. We would have won an overall, but the rest of the world looks at gold and overall. So we'd have come back with glum faces. And the last play of the last game at the Olympic Games in Paris was women's basketball. And the French player had a 3-point shot to make. And she just marginally, quarter of an inch, had her foot on the 3-point line. And it was called a 2-point shot. And the captain of the US team, I've been on a couple of panels with her, and she said, I don't know, and that would have, if they'd called it a 3 instead of a 2. Yeah. Diana Taurasi is her name, and she said, listen, I don't know if we're going to win overtime, man. It was hard, we were pretty beat. I don't know if we were going to win that overtime. And again, it came down to that quarter inch. Yeah. If she just takes that marginal step back, that's a 3-pointer. It goes to overtime, and do we win? I don't know. And similarly in the men's 100. So my point is that the fractions are minimal.
Marginal, yeah.
It's absolutely unbelievable, like that tiny fraction. And our goal is to win in LA, and though we're up against the best in the world, and they're looking to take us down. And so we have to recognize that those margins are tiny, and every single piece of work that's done every single day has an impact on how we do.
Well, as an Australian, I know we're very keen to beat you in the pool in LA, and I guess to your point, that's one example. That's one country in one sport. You've got Norway in the winter sports. It's that reminder every day that everyone's out to get you right and trying to find that moment.
Yeah, I mean, I feel more comfortable in the spot we're in winter sport, chasing Norway, than I am in summer sport where we're the top dogs and we own the pressure that comes with staying in that spot.
And then you lay on top of that at home, right?
Yeah, and all that comes with that. But, they put us in these spots because they think we can do the jobs. And my colleagues that are here, they believe us that we can do the jobs, and we have the confidence to do it. And we'll be ready.
Have you, obviously the FIFA World Cup is on at the moment here in the United States. Unfortunately, Australia lost on Friday to the USA, but they must be under a huge amount of pressure as well. Home World Cup, the way they've started the tournament, is there anything that you've seen already in the first sort of 2 weeks of the World Cup about Team USA's performance that will help you prepare for LA?
I'll tell you what I really like. I like watching Coach Pochettino on the sidelines. I like the way he operates. I like the way he gives his players space to do the work they need to do, the way he trusts his players, he gives them instruction, the way he's nimble in the moment. Like when you look at the way the games have evolved, they haven't been straightforward games. And his capacity to lean into his team, I think it's less about the X's and O's. It's about how is it possible to get the most from the players on the team. And I'm no expert in football. I'm a fan of it. Yeah. But what I do know is I see the way he operates and the way he communicates, and he gives his players confidence to do the job that he expects them to do. Yeah. And I think that's the most important thing, that they have the chance to play freely, roam freely, but within the context of his system. And that's impressive. So I think coaching's critical, obviously. We have experts in this room that do it every single day. But that's noticeable change, I think, within the team. And that builds confidence and momentum. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's so early still, so no predictions on this one. But I think he's made a big impact. I think his style is impactful, and I think the players respect him, and they play for him.
Former Tottenham Hotspur manager, just for the record.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about Arsenal. We'll claim some kudos for Tottenham there. Pochettino is an outsider, right?
Yeah.
He's an Argentinian. He's coached in big leagues in Europe. I was reading an article in the Athletic last week about how US soccer attracted him to come and take over the national team to try and bring a new set of thinking and that European style to the US national team. How have you at the USOPC opened the door to outsiders, whether that's coaches from different countries, whether that's tech partners, external collaborators? How have you done that, and what's the resistance been to that?
Yeah, we'll hire the best people. And I'm fortunate to have been a beneficiary of that. So I'm not the person that has set the standard in the organization around that, but I have been a beneficiary. And we hire the best people, and our winter high performance director is Jen Bryant, and Jen worked for in the British sports system for a number of years in winter sport, and she came over and she brought a completely different perspective. Kelly Skinner had the courage and conviction to say we need to be better, and then he went out and hired somebody who had the technical skill to actually implement the plan. And so I think, again, this is about curiosity and not being limited by any one factor. And if the best person for the jobs, just surround yourself by people who are better than you, That's the thing that I'm the beneficiary of other people's great work, So you got to find the best people, whoever they are and wherever they're from.
And has that extended to the non-people aspect of what you're doing at the US Olympic Committee? I mean, obviously we're at a technology conference, that your tech vendors, your venue partners, your other suppliers, how has that piece played out for you?
Yeah, all of it. So we've established a performance innovation fund. We've been able to raise about, Dan will correct me on the number, but I think we're close to $50 million in investment that we've been able to raise privately through private donations. And that's how we get the edge. And the way we do it is we tell the story the way I'm telling it, which is like, hey, we don't have all the answers. We need to go out and find the best partners to do great work for us. Like we partner with Teamworks on some projects, a number of projects. And we'll go out into industry and we'll say, this is the problem set. Now, can you help us fix this problem? We have the resources now to be able to do that. And that's, again, that comes from a fundamental curiosity about how can we make Team USA athletes better on the field of play. That's at the heart of it. And then there's a lot that this is the technology capital of the world. If we're not taking full advantage of the Apple's, Anthropic's, all of these, Google, Microsoft, all these companies that are out there doing incredible things, then shame on us. We're not doing our job.
And how does that, you talk about the $50 million innovation fund there, how does that story land when you go and pitch to these companies or these wealthy benefactors to invest in this picture that you've painted?
So what they like, I think, is that we come in without any chest thumping. Okay, the style of approach that we have is, again, I go back to that word curiosity, but the style of approach is that we come with a problem set that will benefit the team. Or excuse me, if we solve that problem set, it will benefit the team. And consequently, folks like that, so venture capital, private equity, investment banking, and so forth, they like that idea that you've already identified the problem. You don't have to have solved it, but you've identified the problem. Yeah. And if you've done that, then they're saying, okay, our risk capital, we're kind of interested in putting that in. And the return on investment for them is being able to go and see that impact on the field of play. Yeah. So, we don't have to, we're not reinvesting dividends back into a fund or anything like that, and it's nothing like that. But we give them the opportunity to see the impact of the money that they have spent with us. And hopefully we're good stewards of the dollars they give us. And that's our plan. And we go in there with a problem set, and they help solve the problem for us with the resources that they have. And critically, with the network of industry partners that they have. And we lean into that.
Amazing. So in the room today, we obviously have a number of people from the USOPC. I see Dave Gallimore here from the UK Sports Institute. But there's a lot of other people in the room that are not in the Olympic sport space. Yeah. And as we started the conversation, they can't necessarily work in that 4-year cycle or that decade-long strategy. What would be some advice or some pointers you would give to people here that are working in a SEC football program and you lose 2 games in conference and suddenly the coach is on the hot seat, or you are a Premier League team firing your manager for the 3rd time in a season?
Well, we can't fix Jerry Jones. You can't fix the owner who wants to just
be involved
and be like, I'll go back to the Cronkies with that Arsenal. They know their role. Okay, so I think that's very important, is that organizationally, role and responsibility is clearly understood. Yeah. So I'm probably on a Jerry Jones hit list now, but anyway, that's beside the point. I'll take my chances. But I think roles and responsibility are very important. But what I will say is, I think for me, anybody in this room is technically elite. Okay, if you're in this room, you are the X's and O's are just meat and potatoes to you. It's just, you get it done every single day with the best athletes in the world, be it the SEC or pro sports or whatever it is. In their space, they are the very best. So they won't let you into their world unless you have the X's and O's locked in. For me, I think it's about surrounding yourself with great talent. If you're hiring people, hire people who are better than you. That's what I try to do. I think also as well, it's about relationships. Because if you build relationships with trusted people, they'll advocate for you in the dark days, like when stuff goes wrong. They'll advocate for you. And if there's a missed shot or the arbitrariness of sport, you've got to be able to mitigate that somehow, because it's going to happen. And we had a bunch of luck and misfortune in Milan Cortina, which I'm happy to talk about. But so I think you have to build advocacy within your organization for you and your work. And I think as well, communication, being able to actually tell the story. Obviously you've got a plan. So if you're working individually with an athlete or you're running a big program, you've got to be able to tell your story in a very precise manner that gets the point across without ambiguity, so that people know what your job is and what your role is. Yeah. And then finally, and this is what I look for when I hire, is you got to look for people who get stuff done, on a day-to-day basis. They're not talking about it. They're not kind of contemplating what they should or shouldn't do. They're decisive. They get the job done, and they're willing to take the risk that comes with actually doing stuff. And it may go right, it may go wrong, but you'll learn from the stuff that goes wrong. But getting stuff done, that matters.
Yeah. Fascinating kind of tie-in with what Dr. O'Neill was saying about the consistency and understanding what are the things that matter, whether it's clarity of what things you're measuring in the medical sense, or whether it's clarity of your role that you're playing within the team.
Yeah.
It seems like that consistency and clarity of your role is critical.
I think it's arguably the single most important thing then, because like, let's go back to US men's national team. Pochettino goes into the dressing room, he says, this is my plan and this is the role I want you to play. Like, show up, because there's no shortage, there's 90,000 people out there who are all working for you. Like, they want you to succeed. So we're in this room, it's us, nobody else. I want you to do your job. And every single one of those players, it would appear, and sometimes it kind of breaks down a little as the game evolves, but it would appear every one of those players knows the role they have to play. Yeah. And as long as they know that, then they can execute on the pitch, and the job gets done. I think that's a principle that can be applied right across anything. It doesn't matter, business, sport, life, know what you're doing.
Yeah, love that. We're going to do a couple more questions up here, and then we're actually going to open it to the floor for a little bit of an extended Q&A. So as we sort of wrap up the couple of questions left on stage, start thinking about some nuggets you might want to try and get out of Finn from his experience in Ireland or in the United States, or if you just want to ask me about a prediction for the US men's national team, or more about Arsenal, that's fine as well. I'm happy to cop that for a little bit longer. If we go back to where we started, Finn, you're a kid in Ireland. You're watching, an Irishman run into a stadium in LA in 1984, and that's what sort of inspired you and your sort of love of sport that has led you to this amazing career on the other side of the globe. If we fast forward to LA in 2028, where the Olympic Games are back, I think there's some events at the Coliseum, at that same stadium. Like, what does it mean personally to you to be able to close the loop in such a, I'll use that word again, serendipitous way?
So the joy for me, obviously there are joyous moments at the Games. I've been to a number now in my career, and I've been, well, what a rodeo. The joy for me is actually working with the team behind the team, the USOPC and the national governing bodies and coaches, and what happens in the moment, in my experience, in those final 30 days before the game. So post-trials, the team is announced, team goes into camp, and then they go into the crucible that is the Coliseum, let's say for track and field. Yep. And what happens is then that the games just have a life of their own. But what I truly love is that experience of being part of a unit. And what happens in that moment is that, and Katie spoke, and I was really struck by it, is like this idea of let's get the silos away and just flattening the hierarchy so we can get to the core issue. And it's that beautiful moment where you get to the core issue of it's our job to make sure the athlete optimizes their performance on the field of play, that final 30 days. And we completely flatten the hierarchy within the organization. And people who are very junior and less experienced have very senior roles. They may be running a training camp. We may have dietitians that will, it may well be my job to say, hey, this dietitian, if they call and they ask for something for USA Swimming, it happens. It happens. We make it happen. So I love that idea of just flattening the hierarchy and being in a position to do the doing at the most critical moment. So it isn't any one particular moment. People talk, oh, the closing ceremony or the opening ceremony. It's really none of that. It's about being behind the curtain and just being able to observe a great team perform, but critically a great support team supporting that team. That for me is, like, if I get the chance, fingers crossed, I'm still rolling through to 28. Yep. But if that's the case, that will be the joy for me.
I think that summation is a mark of who you are as a practitioner and as a leader. I think that if people in the room can take that away from our session today, that's an incredibly powerful thing. Maybe final question for me, if we then go to a specific event, a specific athlete, a specific sport? Is there one thing that you're really looking forward to, being in the stadium or on the sidelines to watch at LA 2028? Is it the marathon because of your origin story? Is it something else? Is there an athlete you're particularly connected to?
I won't call out LA. What I would like to do, if I could, is call out Milan Cortina.
Yeah, please.
And talk about the margins again, the tiny, tiny margins. And I think back to the last game, the last performance in Milan Cortina was the men's hockey game against Canada. And we should have lost that game probably 3-1, 4-1. We should have been out of it after the second period. And they stayed in the fight, though. They stayed in the fight. And my reflection of that, I was in the stadium and it was electric. I've never really experienced anything like it. I think there were 29 million viewers in the US. And we should have been out of it. And a particular Canadian player, who will remain unnamed because he plays for the Avs, he missed a shot, man. It was in I think the third period. It was over. He makes that, it's over. And then he goes to overtime. And then Jack Hughes scores that winner, and it's unbelievable to watch. And I'm not into hockey, but I'm into that experience of being in that stadium, and it was incredible. But what really mattered was actually Connor Hellebuck's goaltending, and there were so many great saves and some occasional fluky saves that kept us in the game. And I think for me, that's the metaphor for the work that I do, is that this kind of it still would have been a record performance for the team on gold medal. There'd have been 11 goals instead of 12 if Canada had won that. But Connor Hellebuck kept them in the game, and he had a lot of luck in that game as well. I think that's the thing that keeps us vibrant and alive. Like, you got to take the chance. Like, if you're in the game, you're still rolling, and you get a couple of breaks, and that's a metaphor for me. I've had a lot of breaks in my career. That's a metaphor for me, is stay in the fight. And I think that's the way we'll operate moving forward.
Amazing. We'll throw it to the audience now for a few questions before we wrap up the session and break for lunch. We've got Carla out there with a microphone, so if you have a question for Finn, hopefully not about Arsenal again, or Mikel Arteta, hand in the air and we'll get to you. Otherwise, I'll be calling on some of my international colleagues. Yeah, down the front, down here. Thanks, Nina.
Thanks, guys. Quick, two questions. The first one is around the transition from Ireland and Europe, UK culture to US culture when it comes to performance, and some of the differences, challenges, and things that you've approached in various ways on that side. And then the second question is a little bit more technical. How do you, at the USOPC, deal with external staff for, say, Team USA athletes, and how they integrate with the USOPC group?
Yeah, two great questions. So the first, that transition from Europe to the US, what I tried to do is, well, firstly, I had an expectation that, firstly, everything is bigger. So I had to prepare myself for that. And also the misconception and kill that misconception of big egos and so forth. So that was probably the first thing. And I think then the second thing was that I was recognizing that I could hold my own, and I needed to give myself a bit of time, a bit of grace, but I was going to be able to hold my own here, because I recognize that people are the same wherever you are. They have the same concerns, the same issues, and if you can connect with people in a certain way, you can do amazing things. So that for me, I think, was a really important learning point, was that it doesn't matter if you're working in Ireland or you're working in the US. If you can connect with folks and have a decent, real talk conversation and be honest and transparent about what you can do and what you can't do, then you're going to be just fine. Then on external partners, that's a real issue for us as we go into an Olympic Games, because let's say with track and field, our team might be 140 athletes. And we want that team to win like close to 40 medals in LA. There'll be 60 plus personal coaches involved in that program. So part of our role is to be able to manage that with USA Track and Field, and they are all external to the system, and they all need taking care of. So that actually takes years of work of identifying who are the coaches that we want to engage with, building personal relationships potentially with them, and then we have to have a credentialing strategy so that they can get access to their athlete at the most crucial time on the warm-up track or in the training track, whatever it might be. So it's about recognition of where the specific issue is, planning for it, and then sometimes some real hard conversations, because we may go, I don't want to call out any one particular event, but the 4th ranked race walker potentially is treated differently to Noah Lyles, in the 100 meters. And if Loa's coach, Lance Broman, have a personal relationship with him, if Lance says, listen, I need access to the warm-up track from this period to this period, it's my job to make sure Lance gets that access. And so it's identifying kind of what are the key moments that will impact the team as a whole, and then planning accordingly.
Thanks for the question, Robin. Anyone else in the audience? We'll go in the middle. Thanks, Dana.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You're talking about a flat hierarchy, and I think we all understand the value of that, but is there the point where someone has to make the decision, and who's that person? And how do you manage those situations?
Yeah, so ultimately, we will, in an Olympic Games, let's say, we have what we refer to as functional area leads, so we break out transportation, credentialing, performance, and so forth, medicine, and there are people in that hierarchy that ultimately are responsible. There may be decisions beyond that are more difficult, and we actually have a lead role called a chef de mission role, which is somebody where the buck stops, basically. Interestingly, though, that chef de mission role will not be our CEO. It won't be the president it is not a honorary position. It is a decision-making role. Sorry, it's not an honorary position. It's a decision-making position. So we do ultimately have people of authority who are going to make a hard call if needed. But for the most part, in the day-to-day work, people are empowered to do the job because the scale is just too much. Our team, our Olympic team in LA will be 700 athletes, so there's just too much stuff going on. So people have to be empowered to make good decisions. And part of it as well is setting an expectation. There'll be some bad decisions made, or not bad, but there'll be some decisions that are made under pressure. And people are forgiven for that. That's a mistake. Mistakes will happen, and we'll be cool. We'll get over it. We'll move on, and as long as we have each other's back, we're going to be okay. But that's what I mean about that. There is a hierarchy of sorts, but in the moment, people are empowered, and that empowerment is very, very important.
Dave, down the front here.
Thanks very much. That's really insightful. I'm really struck with focus on curiosity and that leading to innovation and how you stay at the top by constantly changing. People, most of the time, don't like change, big change happening. So I'm just wondering if you've got any reflections on, I guess, how to handle that change well, how to optimize the change.
Yeah, well, I think it starts with leadership. So if you go into it with the express statement that, yeah, hey, I'm curious about it. Let's say AI, okay? We got to get an AI roadmap in place for sport performance. I know nothing about AI, nothing. But I do know people who know a lot about it. My colleague Dan, again, I called out Dan, but Dan's leading the building out of our AI roadmap. And we connect with those folks, and they respect people who ask questions with that open, curious mindset. And then I think it comes a lot from leadership being quite open to it and being humble enough to say, hey, we need to be big, we need to improve in this space. And others then feed off that, because then there's less fear of making a mistake, and there's less ambiguity about the why behind the change. And that's the key thing. If you can explain, this is why we're doing it. And if you remain accountable yourself as the leader in that space, and you take ownership for it, and you take the good and the bad with it, there's a good chance that you're going to push your way through that. And we've gone through some reorgs and changes that have been very challenging over the last couple of years, and we got some of it right, we got some of it maybe not so right, but we continue to work through it, and we're okay with that. My view in all of this is like progress is better than perfection. Like, if we're sitting around waiting for stuff to be perfect, we're going to get killed. Like, we're just going to get outplayed all day long. So you got to give people that feeling that you can be entrepreneurial. Change is a good thing, because if we don't change, we're going to get beat. And I own it as well. I'm in it.
Maybe time for one more question? Yeah. Who wants to go? Surely one more. Don't make me call on someone. Here we go, down the front. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. I just want to get your thoughts in general when we think about college sports, just in general, and the nature of where we're going. When we see that there's cutting of many of our Olympic sports, you start to think about the future of say, the roster, the American roster. Thoughts? Is your voice being heard in the midst of that? Just wanted to get your opinion.
So thanks for asking that question, because if there is one single biggest threat to our position as the #1 summer nation in the world, it is the destruction of the Olympic and Paralympic college pipeline in summer sport. I think close to 80% of our medals were won by athletes that came through NCAA programs in Paris. And if that goes away, we're in trouble. We're in serious trouble. So the gravity of the situation is very clear to us, and it is an existential threat to potentially our programs, moving forward. So we have to focus on that. So it's a board level priority, and our CEO Sarah Hirshland has leaned into this a great deal. She's very knowledgeable in this space, has taken a real leadership role in this, and has gone to Congress, has sat before oversight committees, expressed the importance of this. We had a presidential delegation in Milan Cortina that the key topic of discussion was, how do we protect the Olympic pipeline? So I think we're being heard, and I think some of the legislation that we're starting to see come through and being proposed, I think is relevant to being heard. But it's a big challenge, and if it's in part, I don't want to speak because I'm not in that space, but it feels like it's the Wild West out there, and we need to kind of get our arms collectively wrapped around it. If we can do that, then I think there's great opportunity potentially. But I look at the men's 10,000 meters, I'd say in the Division I track championships this year, I think the first 8 men were non-US athletes, which is the first time, I think, potentially in history. So that is a concern, but we are being heard. And if we don't get after it, if we're not proactive in our approach, which we have been, our pipeline will be dramatically impacted. Thank you. Great question.
Great question, and a really powerful response there from Finn to wrap up what's been a great session. We're here at the Human Performance Summit, and I think you've just heard from one of the most human leaders in all of global sport. So it's been a privilege to share the stage with you, Finn. Please give a round of applause to Finn Kirwan. Thanks, Matt. Thanks so much.